Nancy and Joe came in for marriage counseling, saying that they just couldn't stop arguing with one another. And so when I asked Nancy, for instance, what the arguments were about, she replied pretty quickly, well, he's just so angry all the time. He gets so mad at me and it just really hurts. He's so mean sometimes. So then I turned to Joe and I asked, why do you get so angry? And without having to think for a second, he replies, because she's so controlling. She always tries to control me and my life. Well, sensing this could become a game of ping pong, back and forth, I looked to the other side of the table and asked Nancy once again, well, why do you try to control him? And again, in a millisecond, she replies, because he's so into his own things that I just can't get his time or attention. Each of them blamed their own behavior on the other person, sensing that they might see some humor in my approach of what they were doing. I continued and I asked, well, Joe, why do you not pay attention to Nancy? Well, because she is so nagging and controlling, I just have to get away from her, he instantly shot back. Trying one last time to have someone take ownership for his or her own behavior, I asked Nancy, well, why do you nag? And without missing a beat, she answers, because he just won't do anything I want him to do. I wanted them to see my head kind of moving back and forth whenever I asked the question, why do you do this or why do you do that? And the answer given was always something about the other person. The ball of ownership was hit back and forth over the net each time, landing on one of their own sides. Neither one of them could ever take personal ownership of their behavior. In their minds, they just were literally realizing that their behavior was caused by the other person. So this is due to the lack of good communication that involves self-awareness. So how can listening help someone become more self-aware? Well, I'm going to share some tips that I think I would encourage you that will help you avoid the mistakes in communication. Number one is I want you to listen to understand before being understood. So allow the speaker to be the priority for the moment. And you as the listener, you may have something very applicable to contribute, but wait until you are sure that you understand the person before you add your 2 cents worth. See, neither Joe nor Nancy were willing to listen for understanding because they shared their thoughts and their insights. Now, we're going to discuss empathic responses later in the course, but again, listen to understand before being understood. Number two, be objective by listening to their emotions about their narrative. And remember the empathic response, the formula, which is identifying the emotion along with identifying the content and then using a tentative response. I wanted Joe or Nancy to stop the table tennis match. It's amazing how reflective listening can help soothe a person's emotions. I mean, think of it. How do you think Nancy would have responded if Joe would have said this? Oh, so when you hear me respond to you in anger, you feel hurt and you believe I'm uncaring. Now, I don't know what she would say, but I'm guessing her anger, maybe her aggressiveness toward Joe, would begin to dissipate a little. See, when you use words to gain understanding and you receive understanding, you realize that talking works. You feel less annoyed. Number three, reflect similar facial expressions and maybe other body language cues. Try not to over or under identify, but simply identify with your body as well as with words. Try sitting in a relaxed fashion. Sit upright, lean in, and look into their eyes. Number four, don't interrupt. When there's a pause in the story, you may make a reflective statement, but make sure the speaker has really paused. You do not always have to fill a hesitation with words. You see, words are powerful, but volumes of words are overly powerful. The person who uses more words is trying to assert more power in the relationship, and relationships are mutual in that we're to share power. Sometimes the interrupter is trying to level the playing field by thinking, you know what, I better get my words in so that the game is played fair. See, interrupting is a power play and is not very effective in listening. Number 5, maintain good eye contact. As I've mentioned before and you've heard before, the eyes are truly the windows to the soul. So realizing that when someone enters into a conversation with you, they're opening a part of their deeper life. And good eye contact gives the message that I am very interested in you. I'm very interested in what you're trying to share. Number 6, avoid at all costs the temptation to finish their story. Assume that you have no idea what they're about to say or how they might conclude their story. You see, this is their story to tell, not yours to imagine. And number 7, finally, don't give advice. Let the speaker choose what action they may take or how they will respond to the topic that they just presented. I mean, you can ask, what do you think you're going to do? Because this is an open-ended question, and it might give them the opportunity to consider their own solutions. Take some time now, though, to practice these 7 tips when listening to someone share a story with you.